Good morning. Welcome back to those of you who've been away. It's cold outside, it's warm in here. Our paths have led us here, not for the first time. The season has changed, our lives have changed as well, but here we are, gathered as at a rest stop in our long journey. In this still hour, we try our best to invoke the Spirit, that one eternal Spirit that fills us in our waking and sleeping and is said to be always as near as our own breath. We know that it is nothing more than the quality of our attention that prevents our seeing and feeling its presence in every moment of our lives. So, as we have set light to our chalice flame now, let us also light up something inside ourselves as we give welcome to that which gives us life. Now we've moved Will over to the piano for our first hymn, which is number 62 in the Purple Book. Here we have gathered. Now, I wonder if everybody's here. We do have a few people who are, do you know the word tardy? People who systematically arrive a bit late. And I'm going to tell you a little story now about someone like that. This is a story about someone who was called Tardy Tim. It was called Tardy Tim because wherever he went, wherever he was supposed to be, he arrived 30 minutes late. No matter what he did to try to fix that, he couldn't do it. Something would come up. He'd set out in plenty of time and nevertheless be unable to get there. Well, this made his 6 siblings, brothers and sisters, so angry that they'd refuse to talk to him. They said, "You're never going to amount to anything because you can never keep a job." So in desperation, having tried everything, Tim went to see the rabbi. Now, this is an old wise rabbi. He went to see him and he said, "Can you help me because I'm always half an hour late?" And the rabbi asked him a bit about his family story and what happened. And he said, "I think I can help you, my son." He said, "Here's what you have to do. You have to invite all 6 of your brothers and sisters to come this time next week, to be here at 6 o'clock, and we'll see if we can't fix you." Well, he went to all of his siblings in turn, and they said, "Okay," because they'd been through a lot of things in the past, thinking, no, there's no way that this kid is ever going to learn how to be on time. But they agreed. At 6 o'clock, a week later, they were all gathered in the rabbi's study, and there was no Tim. He started early. He had on 2 wristwatches and a pocket watch and had left an hour early. But along the way, things just seemed to happen. He got distracted. He bumped into a herd of sheep that blocked his way, and he arrived at exactly 6:30. And all of the siblings, all his brothers and sisters went, "Here we are again." And the rabbi said, "Look, I think I can tell you what's wrong with Tim." He said, "You see, when he was born, he was missing a half hour. Sometimes that happens. This half hour, it somehow got lost. And there's only one way to get it back. So what I want you to do, each of you, is to come over. And for 5 minutes, I want you to put your hand on Tim's head. Just be quiet. Just put your hand on his head for 5 minutes, one by one." And that's what they did. And the room became very quiet. And Tim's face became very composed. And at the end of it, Tim said, "I feel that I can be on time now." And sure enough, from that time on, he was known as Timely Tim, because he was always there exactly on time. And it was a great mystery to everybody but the rabbi, who understood just how important 5 minutes of someone's time can be. Well, that's our story of Tardy Tim or Timely Tim. Take your pick. We're going to try to play some recorded music now. Come in, welcome. Who's first?
Me and my old and beautiful I give you my day. You show me your lovely way, how to be, what to see, and think of you, Lord, and none of me. Showing me my way, showing me my way home.
Ah, yes. For those of you who didn't realize, that was Lowell singing. We have him recorded. Okay, let's take a few minutes for ourselves now. So I want everybody to feel that they are welcome and content. And I'd like it if you were feeling that you were glad to be here. Now is our quiet time. It's the time when the riot of hectic life gives way to that peace that is never so far away that it cannot be found. Now is the time when, with strong purpose, we seek the source and destination of our lives. So let us relax our tired limbs and our tired minds from the toil of travel. Let our bodies rest comfortably now, feeling the firm floor under our feet, relaxing our shoulders, our facial muscles, taking peace and renewed energy from the quiet of this moment. And let those muscles that bear our weight and the eyes which grant us orientation be still and free of strain. As we relax still further, let us also dismiss those false hopes that fill our minds with the words, if only, and maybe. Let us feel that our bounty is in the present and our strength for now in what we do here together. And so, with bodies still and peaceful, with minds alert and clear of confusion, we seek once again the altar of our hearts. Let us go now together into that good silence. Now let that silence leave the realm of mere sound and nestle in our hearts as we resume our chosen journeys through this world, this journey with all its demands of living and growing. May that still small voice not quite heard whisper to us in all our ways, in all our days. Bright sustainer of the traveler, one God of peace and comfort and equally of task and turmoil, stay by us. So be it. Inshallah, Shalom, Shanti. Amen. When this day is over, number 171 in the Green Book. Is that right, Will? 171? Yeah, what love can do. Yeah, first line. You know how some little small thing that happens can stay with you and become significant when you think about it later on. Well, something like that happened to me one day. It was a few years ago. I was coming out of a tube station in Brixton, and a young man was sort of blocking my path ahead of me. And as I got nearer, I noticed that he was looking at me fixedly. And I thought, uh-oh, there's some kind of street genius now. Something's going to happen. And he came directly up to me. I noticed that he was clutching a Bible. And he said, "Are you saved?" Well, if you know me at all, you'll know that I'm rarely at a loss for words, but I was at a loss for words in that moment. Because, you know, you want to say things like, define your terms and all this stuff, you know, but you don't. He was clutching his Bible. It was like, he was so white-knuckled. It was like a man would clutch a rope thrown down a well to keep him from drowning. So I had to think, what was he drowning from? What were those piercing eyes about? And then I remembered that some years before I had seen some similar eyes while watching a television report of the 7/7 bombings, the London terrorist attack back in 2007. And those were the eyes of Mohammed Sadiq Khan, who was a teaching assistant from Beeston in Leeds, in a posthumous video justifying his part in the slaughter of all those people. I can't remember now, but I think 56 people or something like that were killed from 4 different bombs. And his eyes were bright. They were insolent in their certainty, and the eyes said it all. He was a man who'd moved from the bleakness of ordinary human consciousness into the promised land of divine assurance. Well, I never saw the eyes of the 9/11 suicide pilots. I've never seen the face of a man who has pressed the detonator of a bomb in an American abortion clinic, but I'm sure that they all shine with that same gleam of holy certainty. And I've come to think that the white knuckles of the man clutching the Bible looked like that because he really did feel that he was drowning without this grip on certainty. But then you have to say, drowning in what exactly? And to answer that question, we have to go back a century and a half or so to a time when a reportedly difficult young man, known as Bright and Difficult, stepped back onto English shores from the decks of a small ship called the Beagle. And he was carrying a lot of burdens, years of samples of exotic flora and fauna from a long voyage that took him to the remote places of the known world, notebooks too heavy to carry, boxes of papers that would stagger an archivist. But he had one burden that was invisible to the eye, and that one was even heavier. He carried his newly found evidence that the Bible stories were fictional and that creation was a result of explainable natural phenomena instead of a 6-day mega miracle by the God of the Old Testament. Well, it took Charles Darwin nearly 2 decades to publish his results. He knew that his book, The Origin of Species, would not just set the scientific world, make them alight with speculation. He was also aware that theology was about to change, and change forever. If it had not been for a possible competitor for scientific glory, it's possible Darwin would have chosen to publish his work posthumously, not wanting to see what he had wrought. He didn't have to worry about money, Darwin. After all, his uncle was a Unitarian Josiah Wedgwood, and his family were secure enough to offer him the life of a gentleman as long as he wished. But I also believe that his theory was, well, let's say it was radioactive, and it simply had to be revealed, and so it was. Well, it'd be lovely if I could report that the world has recovered from those revelations and gone on finding a way to trust the universe without keeping the bathwater alongside the baby. But you know, as I do, the issue still divides communities and families, especially in America, and that those who are willing to shut down their logic to save God, I repeat, to save poor God, are growing like mushrooms. And so that was what the young man outside the Brixton Tube Station wanted to rescue me from. He wanted to rescue me from a world with no God, no ultimate meaning, and worst of all, no Bible, no handbook. What he was inviting me to do was to put my mind to sleep, to ignore the evidence of my own senses and my insight, and just go ahead and believe the unbelievable. I couldn't do that. I'm sure you couldn't do that. And even though I don't know you, I'd be willing to bet that there's not a moment in which you didn't wish you did have that kind of belief, because it must feel so much more comfortable than the confusion and the searching that we all endure. Alongside these unhappy fundamentalists like that guy, we've recently been treated to a wave of what I have to call, and will call, mere atheism. You probably know who I'm talking about Richard Dawkins, with his undoubtedly brilliant scientific mind, asking and then dismissing all the wrong questions. Christopher Hitchens, the late Christopher Hitchens, never willing to miss an opportunity to shock and offend, taking the mickey, as the British say, out of the loony religionists and misrepresenting even the staid old theological porridge of the Anglicans. The books, The God Delusion and God is Not Good, were destined to be bestsellers before either one of them were published. And atheism of that variety hasn't had such entertaining advocates for a very long time. It's produced a whole new group of book believers. Well, the problem with their position for me is twofold. First, I have to say this. I'm embarrassed to say it. It strikes me as adolescent. One of the great things about becoming an adolescent is that suddenly you know all about everything. You know everything when you're an adolescent. You know more about things than your parents, your teachers, certainly those old graybeards who wrote the holy books. The first out atheist I ever met was in the 9th grade at school. His name was David Peel. He reportedly had the highest IQ in the school. He also was a victim of what looked like terminal acne, though I don't think the two things are connected. One day in a school cafeteria, David stood up as a result of a dare on the dining table and shouted, "There is no God. If there's a God, let him strike me dead now." And all of us who were with him sort of got away from the table. You don't know how accurate God's going to be with lightning bolts, after all. I didn't have on rubber-soled shoes. We scattered like pigeons in the park. As it turned out, David Peel got nothing more for his blasphemy than 3 days detention. And we all had to pay for his lunch for a week. And the other reason why the seductive logic of atheism, of the mere atheist, doesn't work for me is one of simple observation. And I offer it to you to compare it with your own life. Atheism is not like agnosticism, which is a perfectly valid state many of us enjoy. It's different in that it reaches a conclusion, a final statement of fact. In fact, in that, it's the first cousin of that brainless fundamentalism that has the Bible slappers stand outside tube stations. Certainty is its lure, it's its modus operandi, but throughout my own experience, my understanding of things has changed over time. And I would be astonished to hear that yours had not. What I knew when I was younger has given way to what I know now, either by modification or outright replacement. What that has done is make me wary of any final theory or claim to knowledge. It's made me believe that belief itself is an illusion, also subject to the shifting sands of relativity. It is not a rock engraved with absolutes. So whatever you certainly believed this morning, that won't be the same in a year or two, because what you are is a process, not an object, and you're going to keep on growing. And I think that's probably why I'm so fond of those words by the Indian spiritual master Meher Baba, who said, trying to understand God is like trying to see with your ears. It's a perfectly human, all too understandable mistake, but I've come to believe that though the mind is excellent for things like making traffic laws and working crossword puzzles, but when it comes to finding meaning, well, sorry, but that's just the wrong organ. That sort of search, as the mystics have long reminded us, is best undertaken by the heart. Well, I'm assuming that there are no hard-bitten, confirmed atheists of the Dawkins variety who've managed to filter themselves into the room so far this morning, or you out there in cyberspace either. I'm also ready to assume that there are no born-again book believers here in the house. I suspect that most of us are somewhere in the middle, sometimes perhaps wandering toward one end of the spectrum, sometimes toward the other. But that makes it sound a little, I don't know, bland maybe. Maybe the right way isn't about being bland and non-offensive. Maybe we should stop bragging about how open-minded we are. Maybe we're doing ourselves a disservice by even referring to those two erroneous schools of thought. To whom are we comparing ourselves? Bible bashers or hard-bitten atheists? Maybe we should ignore all the shouting and the posturing and just get on with being spiritual beings in a confusing world. And maybe we should just get rid once and for all of this matter of belief. Belief is what condemns the extremists of both camps to irrelevance. In the end, it's not about belief at all, it's about experience. It's about what you feel, it's about what happens to you. To know something is to experience it, not to speculate about it. If the mind in its fixation on ideas inevitably leads us in erroneous directions, what we have left is an experience. And that experience, I'm aware that some of you won't like this phrase, but I have you as a captive anyway, so I'll give it to you. It's been called the practice of the presence of God. Keeping that process alive is critical, and not just for us. We're doing it for the world, whether we know it or not. That world where people are drowning in relativity and lost in materialism, fearful of violence, bewildered by sexuality, vulnerable to poisonous nonsense from extremists and smart alecks. Now, I'm no Christian of the ordinary variety. I don't like the concept of sin any more than anyone else here. But I would say this. If there's a sin, it would be the waste of our precious opportunity to open a space for what is real and what is true. Sometimes I think I'm not such a fast learner. It's taken me years to realize what I should have said to that guy outside the Brixton Tube Station when he said, "Are you saved?" I should have said, "Yes, brother, I was always saved from the moment I turned up here." Amen. Shall we try some recorded music? Meditation? Sack the DJ. No, we're getting there little by little. We're getting there, little by little. I'm glad we are using our sound system for what it's meant to do. I think it's time to take our offering. What do you think, Mark? If you don't have any money, don't put any in. Confederate banknotes are still good here. Monopoly money accepted. Lovely. Peter, could you spin the camera around to take in the group, show everybody? I'm particularly happy that so many of our friends from Rainbows Across Borders have come this morning. Yeah. Yeah, Rainbows Across Borders. How long have you been coming to the church now, Herbert? It's been about 8 years or something, hasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. These are people who had to leave their home countries, mostly Uganda and Kenya. We got both here today, have we? Uganda, hand, yeah. Kenya, yeah, hands. We're still working on plans to turn our foyer vestibule into a warm place for people who are having trouble paying their heating bills this winter, and doing that Monday to Friday. And we're making some progress. We're going to have a committee meeting, I say, with a kind of a sardonic smile on my face, because we have a kind of a half-baked, unformed committee at the moment. We're meeting next week after church. So be there or be square, please. Anything I've forgotten?
Still need stuff for the newsletter.
What?
Still need things for the newsletter if anyone's got any.
Yeah, items for the newsletter, please go to Freddie. Freddie, yes. I could welcome my son and heir and his lovely spouse from America. I don't know whether I should embarrass you. Jake and Renata, thanks for coming all this way just to go to church. I do appreciate it. Okay, let's sing number 102. And because it's short and sweet, let's do it twice. What do you say? Purple Book.
Softly on your fields, and a
as we turn to go, let us resolve this, that we will travel expectantly through all the days that lie ahead of us, seeking to live in gratefulness so that we do not lose our chance of blessing. And as good companions, let us keep on looking after one another, because we know we can, until we meet again. Amen.